Hey everyone, this is Jessica with Hooks and Sunshine, and today we are going to crochet over cords. It's a great way to personalize your cords, especially if you're constantly confusing who's charging cable, stealing each other's earbuds in the house. It's a really fun way to personalize things and make sure that everyone knows that they're yours. As a bonus, it also tends to protect your cables. You can see here on this one, it's just short from the end, but the way you're going to crochet over it, you can easily shift everything down and it can go right to the end there to protect it. So here's some earbuds that I've done previously with Red Heart Unforgettable. This is the colorway Candied, so it's a little more pastel, but a lot of tones in there. It's a nice pastel rainbow. Just to show you today, I do have a small cord. This is actually from my daughter's headset that she got for Christmas. We figured we'd treat her to a Bluetooth set, so she's got the cable to plug it in if she wants to, but we keep losing the cable to charge it, so I figured we'd personalize this for her, make sure she can find it easily. So today I've got Boutique Unforgettable. It's from Red Heart, and this is the colorway Stained Glass. It's a really pretty rainbow you can see in there. I'm a big fan of it. I also have a size G. Can you see that? G 4.25 millimeter hook. It doesn't really matter what size you use. I prefer to use a smaller size hook, mostly just because you end up with your neater stitches, especially with the Unforgettable. They recommend a J hook, but that's going to be really big around your cords. So to start, I'm just going to make a little slip knot here. And I prefer to make it so that when you pull the end, that's what's going to tighten it. It's going to make it a little neater at the end here. So you can go ahead, do your slip knot, insert your hook, and we're just going to tighten it, but not too tight. So nice thing with the short cord, it's a lot easier to work around. What you're going to start with is you're going to have your hook on top of the cord, and we're going to wrap it underneath, yarn over, pull through, and then we can yarn over again and pull through to do a starting single crochet. Once you've done that, you can pull your slip knot a little bit tighter just for a little bit of a neater effect. You can see it does leave some space underneath, so we're going to want to fit extra stitches in there so we can tighten it up at the end. What you want to do is think about your cord as your previous row. So if you're doing single crochet into another row of single crochet, you're normally going to be crocheting into your 2 loops. So what you want to do is think of your cord as those top 2 loops, and anything below the cord is the rest of your stitch. So we're just going to continue doing a single crochet around the cord until we hit the end. So it can be a little tricky. You're going to want to take your time. It's not like stitching into a normal project. So what you can see each time is I'm going to basically insert hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through. So it's a really easy project to do. It is a tiny bit time consuming, but really what isn't, that's worth it. And you can see, as I'm working, it's twisting around. When you get to the end, and tighten it up, twist it all the same way, and you end up with a nice little bit there. And I'm going to keep going here until we change colors. It's a nice short cable, so it won't take too long. Obviously the longer the cable, the longer it's going to take. So I'm just going to keep doing a single crochet. I wouldn't want to do any other stitches because you can already see with the single crochet, you do end up with a ridge there. You don't want anything to be much taller than that. It's just going to end up getting in the way rather than being decorative at that point. And you can see some stitches, if they end up a little loose, it's okay. Frog it, go back, make another stitch. The tighter it is, obviously the neater it's going to look at the end, but we're also not going for perfection on this. Oops, there we go. All right, and you can see You know, it's nice and tight down here at the end where we've already pushed it. Right here, our more recent stitches are a little looser, so we can push those down. So it is a little misleading. You think you're making more progress than you are. Then when it comes time to tighten it, you realize you haven't quite gotten as far as you'd like. Again, with your hook sizes too, something to keep in mind is your cord size. So if you're going over a large cord or cable, you're going to want to upgrade your hook size just to accommodate that a little bit better. You also want to consider your yarn size. Now with the Red Heart Unforgettable, they recommend a J hook because it can vary in thickness. Most of the time I do find it is thin enough though that I can use a smaller hook with it. You do want to make sure that you don't have to frog a lot with it. Since it is a roving yarn, it does make it more difficult to frog because you're accidentally, when you pull through, a lot of times you could see a few stitches back. When you're pulling through, you can catch on a few fibers there rather easily and not even notice it. So it does make it harder to frog with this yarn. So if you do notice something that you want to redo, I would make sure you frog it within a stitch or two. Going back the whole way, you're probably going to end up getting frustrated and just cutting the yarn and starting from the very beginning, which nobody wants to do that, let's be honest. So I did do a center pull here. It just makes it easier for me. You can see occasionally you're going to get a tangle. It happens. Keep working, move on. All right, so I've got some more progress here. We're still very thoroughly in the pink. You can see it started with a darker pink here with some gray mixed in, and we're getting much, much brighter. I'm pretty sure my daughter is going to love this when she gets home from school today. I don't think we're ever gonna have a problem with her forgetting to change or charge her headset again, which is great because she has a road trip coming up to go visit Grandma and Grandpa, so this is going to be done in perfect time for her to be nicely distracted in the car and not be bored for 2 hours. So you can see it's still going rather quickly. You know, it's just, if you can do a single crochet, you can do this. It's a nice, easy project and a fun way to really make something yours that is very generic and something that everybody has. You know, everyone's got a house full of charging cables for any sort of electronics. It's a nice way to make yours stand out, and especially if you've got a husband or siblings or roommates and you're always trading off charging cables and you can never end up finding your own, it's a good way to make sure that you can always find it easily. That way you can also tell who's been snagging yours if you need to. So I'm getting close to the end here. You can see it is much tighter here. Now, there is one thing too. If you make it too tight, you're going to end up with a lot of ruffles. Now, if you want to, it's a great choice. I think it looks really fun that way. In this case, I'm going to go for a little more of a straight effect. So I want to keep it loose enough that it's going to keep the stitches straight, but tight enough that we're still going to have that cord covered properly. Sorry, apparently I cannot talk. I've not had enough coffee today. And so I'm just going to tighten it up here. There you go, and you can see it's very loose there where we've had the more recent stitches where you can still see the cord underneath. So just about done here. I'm going to pull a little more from my center pull. Hopefully no more tangles, but you never know. You can see I don't hold my crochet hook the way a lot of crocheters do. I was actually taught by my grandmother, who always held hers this way. So I have tried multiple different grips and I work at maybe 1/10 of my normal speed when I do that. So I've tried to mix it up here and there. It is trickier with the bigger hooks, obviously, but I've got my trusty boys here and they've got that nice flat edge, which work perfectly when you want to hold it like a pencil. So no matter how we hold it, it really doesn't matter, but just thought I would disclose that because I know a lot of people, they'll hold their hooks like this. Sometimes I've even seen like this, and you do whatever's comfortable for you, you know. The last thing we all need are finger cramps. All right, so I'm just about done here. I'm gonna tighten this up a little bit. Once you get towards the end, you are gonna wanna check that tension a little bit more, just to make sure that, whoops, make sure it's going to be sufficiently covered to your liking. You know, like I said, it's a project for personalization. If you don't make it to personalize it for you, then really, what's the point? There we go. I think I'm going to fit 1 or 2 more stitches in here. It's a little trickier at the end there because you're working right around the end of the cable. All right, so I've got that there. You know, a little straightening needed still, but that's fine. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to cut my working yarn. So yarn over, pull through, and pull that tight. And all I've got left to do now is sew in the ends. So what I'll do is just get my yarn needle, and I just tend to go right underneath here, loop it around, and then just come right back. Makes it nice and easy to hide underneath because our stitches are thick enough, you're not going to see anything underneath there. And you know, I've been using, I'll pull my headset back over here with my earbuds. You can see I've been using these pretty much every day. They've got a little bit of fuzz to them now because, like I said, it is a roving yarn, so that's a risk you're going to take. You can see no ends are peeking out here. I haven't had a single problem with them. You can actually see here, just where I've looped around a little extra loop there when I was pulling the yarn back through. So, and then with your earbuds, if you wanted to do that, it ends up being a little trickier because you've got this V. So what I did, just for the sake of color consistency, I came down one side. When I got to the buttons, if you're working with earbuds that have these, I just did a few chains. You know, it still keeps it covered for the most part, so you still have a little bit of color fun to it. You're sewing in less ends that way, which makes it a lot easier at the end when you just want to be finished. So I just did a few chains down to the end and then just continued on single crocheting down. When I got to the V, I just came back up the other side to the other earbud. That way they ended up a little more similar in color. I thought it'd be a little nicer that way rather than continuing the pink on down and then ending up with a completely different color on the other side. So once I finished the top part, I finished off my ends, came back down here, and I just slip stitched right into the last stitch I had in the V there to start off. And then I just worked on down right at the end, finished off, and oh, I do have a little end peeking out there. So like I said, this has been almost daily use, and I did these about a month ago, so that's the only real improvement I've had to come back and make, is just snip off that little end that was peeking out. So it can be very durable even when using the roving yarn. I really like the color effects with the Red Heart Unforgettable. You know, you get that nice ombre with a rainbow, and I think it's a great way to just have a little project to personalize things for yourself. So I hope you guys enjoy it as well. I hope you enjoy my first real video. I'm clearly a novice at this, but enjoy and have fun.